The chapter between two lands, a story of pressure, farewell, and a mercy that led them to stay. The pressure in Jerusalem had grown heavy, not suddenly, but slowly, the way weight settles on the chest before the breath realizes it has become shallow. Every day carried more watchfulness, more restraint, more unspoken tension. The sacred place was still sacred, but living beside it had become difficult. The 8 siblings felt it together. They did not speak of fear. They spoke of responsibility, and they understood something important. Sometimes protecting the Amana means stepping away, so the people are not harmed because of you, so they prepared to leave, not as fugitives, not as the defeated, but as people who had fulfilled what they could, and knew when it was time to move. Giving salam to Al-Quds before they left, they walked through the streets one last time. They gave salam quietly, to elders who remembered their own youth, to children who still played despite everything, to mothers whose strength was stitched into every day of survival. They did not promise to return. They did not speak of plans. They only said what mattered. Remain steadfast. Allah sees you. You are not forgotten. Tears were held back. Hands were clasped. Dua followed them like a shadow. Do not walk into hardship, they said. You stood with us. Let us stand with you. The siblings accepted only what was necessary. They knew wealth could weigh heavier than hunger if carried without care. Then one final farewell. Hands raised, voices calling dua, no anger, only love, and they walked on. The road carried them north, into a land of stone villages and flowing fountains where life moved at a gentler pace. They arrived in a Turkish village as the afternoon softened. Few people passed by the central fountain, filling jugs, exchanging greetings. The flag above moved quietly in the wind. The siblings stood still for a moment, not because they were lost, but because they were listening. This place did not ask anything from them, and that alone felt like mercy. It was the sisters who noticed him first. At the edge of the village stood a broken house, walls cracked, roof partly fallen, time having taken its share. Beside it sat an old man, his hands resting on a cane, his posture tired but dignified. He did not ask for help. He did not look away. He simply sat, as though waiting for Allah's decree to arrive in whatever form it chose. The sisters stopped. Something in their hearts recognized him, not as a project, not as charity, but as a sign. They returned to the brothers and spoke quietly, and without discussion, without debate, a decision was made. They would stay. Not because Turkey was easy, not because they had plans, but because mercy had shown itself and they had learned never to walk past it. Why they stayed? They stayed because a broken house could become a home, because an old man should not finish his life alone, because sometimes Allah does not call you with thunder but with a silent figure sitting in a corner, waiting to be seen. And so Turkey became their pause, their place of rebuilding, their chapter of quiet barakah before the next road would open. The message that changed the road. One afternoon, the 4 sisters sat together, resting after a long day's work. Their bodies were tired, but their hearts were calm. The village moved gently around them, as it had begun to do since they arrived. A woman approached. She carried a rolled message in her hands, held carefully as though it was something fragile. Her steps were slow. Her voice, when she spoke, was low, not urgent, not loud, but serious. Above them, the sky felt heavy with meaning. The clouds gathered in a way that made the sisters lift their gaze. And there, written softly across the sky, not as a command, not as a cry, the words appeared, Yemen needs help. The sisters did not panic. They did not rush to speak. They did not argue or question. They looked at one another, the same look they had shared before every turning point in their lives. A look shaped by trust, by experience, by knowing that some moments do not require discussion, because some walls are not meant to be ignored. They understood then. Turkey had been a place of healing, a place where wounds were tended, dignity restored, and strength rebuilt. What came next would be a place of giving, and once again, without force or fear, the road began to open.